Sorry, you guys. This stuff is getting a little grumpy on me, but we got it. We're all good. Okay. Would have been a great lab. I apologize greatly. Hopefully, you all will have the ability, now that you know about these this thing, right? To the next time you go out to a sheep and goat area, right, that has them. Talk with the producer there and see if they do body condition scores, and if they do, ask them if y'all could do a couple blind runs, right? It takes 8 seconds. It takes 4. Oh, great. Okay, so what's going on? What do we do? Feel for the spine first, on the back, behind the last rib, okay? Right in the loin area, okay? And in front of the hip bone. I could show you on this horse, but we have pictures here. All right, feel for the tips of the transverse processes, right? Our pins, right? Feel for, well, depending on the body condition score, you'll feel them popping out pretty well, right? And then so you really want to feel the tip of the spine, the loins, okay? And then the transverse processes, okay? And there's a few things you're gonna want to look for. You're gonna want to, we'll go a little more in detail here. You're gonna see how protruding that spine is. You're gonna see how much fat is over the loin area, right? And you want to see how covered those transverse processes are, right? How embedded in material they are, in meat and fat, right? They are. So let's look at some. Right, you're gonna feel for fullness of muscle and the fat cover on the loin areas, right? And so in the U.S., we use, as I mentioned, our scale from 1 to 5, where 1 is emaciated and 5 is obese. So starting at emaciated body condition score 1, we can see, right, prominent, sharp, acute spine showing through. These animals are in bad shape. These are probably either there's been a drought, right, or more likely when we'll see these animals, there's been parasites. Okay, and one, especially with parasites, if it's a nutritional problem, it's a little easier to get back from. But down to 1 with a parasite problem is going to be fairly difficult to bring back up, right? Okay, it's almost it's moving along fast, and you don't have much left, right? You don't have much animal left here. So spine is prominent, shallow loin muscle with no fat cover, right? Just skin, right? You'll be able to feel just muscle, right? Transverse processes are sharp, and you you see my hand here? You can go under the transverse processes easily, like that. Very easy, just feel underneath it, right? Fatter animals, it's difficult to get under, right? The transverse processes. Let's look here. And then even on a 1, right, you can feel about every old thing about those transverse processes. You can dang near see them, okay? All right, body condition score of 2, okay? 2 isn't bad, depending on where you want to be, right? Weaning or so, that's right about the cutoff and things like that. But it's not necessarily terrible. I wouldn't want my animals sitting around at a 2 for very long, right? But if something happens sometimes, okay. So sharp, prominent still a spine. Your loin eye is more full, right? But there's still not very much fat over it. But there is more muscle there that you can feel, okay? The transverse processes still visible, okay? But they're smoother, right? They're less acute, less sharp. And you can still feel underneath, showing that again, right? Very easily, okay? But not with a little small pressure, right? Whereas with a 1, it's just almost a ledge, storage underneath there, right? It's almost like a little cave underneath there. Body condition score of 3. This is nice healthy animal right here. Okay, so the spinal process is rounded and smooth, right? So not our acute, friggin' spine going on there. And then our transverse processes are smooth also and covered well. So there's more small indentions popping out, right? And you can still get it underneath there, but you need a little more pressure. So that's one of the things we're really going to be feeling is how easily it is to get your fingers under the transverse processes of the animal, okay? Along with our feel of spine, our loins, our loin muscle and the fat coverage, right? And our transverse processes. All right, BCS of 4. We're starting to get up there, okay? Call it fat. Spinous process can be detected only with pressure as a hard line, right? You gotta press down on the spine to feel it, right? Certainly cannot see, right? Cannot feel transverse processes because there's too much material now to even get to them, okay? Large animal. And then the eye muscle is full with a thick fat cover. We're already up to 5. This is obese. This is kind of danger territory. So for body condition score 5, what has been our spine detection here is actually going to turn into this, right? So it becomes visible, but differently. You see, right? Actually, wasn't not visible at 4, and at 5, it's still not visible. But the fat is actually rounding up from around it. Okay, so there's a little gully along where the spine would be. Still cannot find the transverse processes, and the loin is very full with a very thick fat layer. All right, yeah, mostly we're in the 2, 3, and 4 range. Okay, 2, 3, and 4 is fine. A 5 is really gonna. A 5 is really gonna need some grain and a nice backyard, right? We're generally gonna be seeing those more in pet situations, as long as they're healthy, right? Nope. Lost one. I hope this is very clear, right? Low body condition scores, especially 1s and even 2s, need access to more and more high quality feed. I hope that's very clear. Fat ones have been overfed and are not reproducing. We mentioned that weight has a really negative effect on reproduction in both females and males, right? In goats and sheep. Great. At breeding, we want a good body condition score, okay? We mentioned this a couple times in preparing for lambing and in some of those talks of growth, okay? Excuse me. Healthier animals generally produce more offspring, okay? And body condition scores are a great indication of overall health, right? So generally, right, the higher the body condition score, the better success we're gonna have at lambing. You just can't push it too much because then we're gonna be, we're gonna be talking about 5s, right? We're not just saying that the higher the better, right? Because 5s, then we're gonna run into some different problems, right? Accessibility to breeding, right? Too much fat reserves, right? But as I say, a healthier animal that can mate, the higher the body condition score, the better. Yeah, and as I just mentioned, over 4, probably not going to conceive run into physiological problems, and just accessibility to reproduction is not going to be there as well. All right, let's see. So we had OSU, nice goat and sheep facility out at Oklahoma State University, big time. Oh, I hope some of y'all get a chance to visit sometime. Found that U-body condition scores at lambing had an effect on total pounds of lamb weaned per ewe, right? So there was a difference, right, between lambs produced and body condition score. And so body condition score with 3 to 4 at lambing, lost fewer offspring and weaned more pounds of lamb. And those with a condition score of 2.5 or less. So really our 3.5, right, especially at lambing, is very nice. So here's a nice little guide for breeding. As we mentioned, I beg your pardon, I keep walking too far. For breeding, we want to push that body condition score high up, but to a point where we're not going to run into those alternative physiological breeding problems, okay? A nice 3 to 4. Early to mid gestation, right? A little dip is okay, right? And at lambing, like I mentioned, about 3.5 for either singles, and we want a little bit higher for twins because we have more mass, right? More animal. And there at weaning, we want her to have a 2 or higher, okay? So after lambing, right, is when our body condition scores are gonna take a pretty good hit, okay? Because now all that energy, all that milk, right, is going to the lambs, okay? So we have a little bit depressed of what's acceptable, but as long as we stay above 2, right, we're gonna start to get some pronunciation of the transverse processes, right? The spine's going to be shown a little bit. A lot of her energy in her loins is going to be transferred to milk for the lamb, right? So she's going to be shunting a lot of energy before working back up after weaning, okay? So that's where the score is going to generally dip the lowest. Sheep scoring 1, have no fat, very limited reserves of energy. As I mentioned, goats or sheep at a body condition score or not, we're not in good shape. We probably have parasite problems. Definitely need special care and extra feeding. They probably need electrolytes, okay, among other things. 2 and 2.5 are okay, but they could use a little extra nutrition, okay. This is yet another reason why body condition scores, especially in relation to your stage of production, right, are super important, right? Because it gives you a lot of quick yet reliable information, right? Is your nutrition plan working for everybody? Probably not. If you have a number of 2s, better not at all. If you have any 1s going on, right? And then it enables you to identify different nutrient requirement classes, and then you can act accordingly. How would you do that? House the 2s and 2.5s in a different area that might have a common feeding area that you can up the quality in that feeding area specifically, okay? 3.5 are an above average flesh, not fat enough to hurt productivity. That's what 3.5 is nice. 3.5 is really what we like. 4 are fat and 5 are obese, generally, right? 5 is gonna have we're gonna have too many problems with 5. You scoring 4 and 5 should be put on a nutritional plane that will lower their weight and then lower their body condition score. Okay, especially during lactation. Better lose weight during lactation and hold condition during the breeding and late gestation. So we want to get the body condition score down early and then hold it right through late gestation. Use any adequate body reserves for reproduction and milk production. Okay, there ain't reserves, right? So that body condition score takes a dip after lambing, right? Because all those reserves get mobilized, right? to milk. So there's gonna be a dip always. So if your animal's at mid lactation at a 2, okay, danger, danger, danger. You're about to be going down. Danger, Herman, danger. Oh, be careful. All right, great. Did I mention any of these other videos by now? We'll meet in lab via Zoom next week during our lab time, and I will provide all the information to get on for that. Please email me with any questions or put them up on the discussions on Laulima, and I will address them. Email me with any questions. Appreciate you all. I hope you all are doing well. Aloha. We'll see you later.